So we've just had the new Necron Index cards, and it's fair to say we've got a lot of very good units. However, which ones are the best? Today I'm talking about Imotekh the Stormlord, one of my top 3 units, and it's coming right up.
Necrons!
Nick speaking, and welcome to this video. Right, here we are doing reviews of the new Index cards for Necrons. I am very excited by all of the fantastic rules that we've had, and it's fair to say that most of the units are very, very playable, which, well, let's face it, makes a change for our army. Now, some of you may be wondering why I've chosen Imotekh the Stormlord as one of my favourite units from this release, and I can understand why. I mean, we've got so many great units: the Plasmancer, the Overlord, Oricon, we've got a Technomancer, all doing great jobs for us. But hear me out on this one, because maybe looking from a different angle than a leader joining a unit and buffing that unit, well, maybe the Stormlord himself is top of the list, or at least a very good choice. Now, Imotekh the Stormlord, of course, is an epic hero, so you can only have one of him, and he's got the usual stats. He moves 5 inches, he's toughness 5, he has a nice 2+ save and a 4+ invulnerable save. He's got 5 wounds, he's leadership 6 and OC 1. His keywords are infantry, epic hero, which means of course he can't take an enhancement, but he is a noble, and that means you can also join a cryptic with him in his unit, which is obviously very nice if you do want to buff that unit even more than Imotekh can. He's holding 2 weapons. He's got the Gauntlet of Fire, which is a ranged weapon, and he's got the Staff of the Destroyer, which can be shot and also used in close combat. The Gauntlet of Fire is basically a modern flamer. It's got the Torrent rule, so it auto hits, and it's got the Ignores Cover rule. It's got a range of 12 inches, D6 attacks. As I said, it auto hits. Strength 5, -1 and 1 damage. Not a beast in damage, but of course those auto hits are going to be great when you're overwatching. The Staff of the Destroyer is an 18-inch ranged weapon with 3 attacks, hitting on 2, so a good chance of hitting. Strength 6, -3 AP and 2 damage, so quite reasonable, but fairly close ranged, but we're going to talk more about that in a minute. Now, in melee, this staff is able to do devastating wounds, which of course means a 6 to wound turns into a mortal wound. Very nice to see this on our characters. Very nice to see more mortal wounds, well, basically within the army. So I'm really liking this. Now, he gets 4 attacks with this weapon. It's weapon skill 2 again, so 2s to hit. It's strength 6, -3 AP and 2 damage, the same as it is in shooting, which is nice to see, so it's easier to remember. Now, those are his weapons, but of course he's not all about weapons, he's about other stuff. So what else does he have? Now, of course, he has reanimation protocols, so he can bring back D3 lost wounds in your command phase, and bearing in mind that reanimation protocol is done after battle shock. Yes, I got that wrong in my previous video, so I'm correcting it. Press the like button and see if we can get this video up to 200 likes. Can it be done? Now, Imotekh the Stormlord comes in at 105 points, and I can hear what you're saying. He doesn't have a resurrection orb, and I appreciate that, I understand that, because resurrection orbs are obviously very powerful, allowing you to do RP in your opponent's command phase as well as yours. Now, for 85 points you could take an Overlord with a resurrection orb. So why am I talking about Imotekh the Stormlord? Well, here's the reason. Imotekh the Stormlord has Grand Strategist. Each time it's your command phase, if Imotekh the Stormlord is on the battlefield, you get 1 extra CP. If he's alive the whole of the game, that's 5 CPs for taking Imotekh the Stormlord. Let's be generous and say he only survives for 3 turns. Well, that's still 3 extra CPs, but what can we do with these 3 CPs? Why is this so powerful? Now, of course, we're going to use our CPs on stratagems. We've got the core set of stratagems. Some of those are pretty decent. Things like maybe the interrupt for close combat, especially if you have a close combat unit that you really want to do some work with before your opponent hits you. That's useful. Of course, we've got the traditional command reroll, although I'm not thinking that's going to be as powerful as it has been in the past, to the point I'm probably not going to use that unless I'm in a situation where that reroll is absolutely vital. And the reason for that is we've got 6 pretty decent Necron stratagems, and they are all only 1 CP. We have Eternal Guardians, which can be done in any phase that your character is destroyed. You can bring him back, you don't have to roll for it, he just comes back, and he comes back with half wounds. Now imagine it was Imotekh the Stormlord that died. You can use a CP to bring him back. You can use his free CP to bring him back. Effectively, his data slate has the ability to come back after he dies. We have the Hungry Void done in the fight phase, +1 to strength in close combat, and also +1 to AP if that unit is led by a character. We've got Conquering Tyrant done in the shooting phase. Reroll wound rolls if at half range when shooting, and at full range if that unit is led by a character. And then we have Undying Legions, which is done in the shooting phase or the assault phase. Once the unit has a model destroyed, when those attacks have finished coming in, we can then do RP, D3 models back, or D3 +1 models back if that unit is led by a character. And then we have Sudden Storm, changing a unit's guns to assault weapons, and also allowing us to re-roll the advanced roll. Now, don't forget that when you advance with an assault weapon, you can shoot it normally, no modifiers, no -1 to hit, so you can move and shoot your weapon as an assault weapon for 1 CP. That's pretty good. And then we have Vengeful Stars, which allows you to shoot a unit that just shot at you if they destroyed a miniature. Now, you do have to be able to see that unit and be in range with your guns, but for 1 CP, you take a loss and then you can shoot back at your opponent. I mean, how good is that? Not only that, if you have a character joined with that unit, then you gain the Ignores Cover special rule. Now, it's fair to say that all of those stratagems are pretty good, and unlike a command's reroll, most of these stratagems will affect the whole unit. So it's not just that 1 dice that you have an ability on, like the command reroll, but it's like all of them. So they are pretty powerful. I think a lot more powerful than a reroll these days, and probably more powerful than most of the core stratagems. And Imotekh the Stormlord can basically let you have one of these stratagems for free each turn that is on the table. What I'm going to do when I'm playing Imotekh the Stormlord is I'm going to take his free command point and I'm going to put it on his data card, and then I'm going to use it from the data card so I can physically see what I'm getting for effectively free from Imotekh the Stormlord. Those free abilities are pretty good and pretty valuable, and I think for his points, only 20 points more than an Overlord, albeit he doesn't have a Resurrection Orb. I think that's really good. Now, of course, it doesn't end there, because he's got another ability. He's got Lord of the Storm. Now, I've liked this ability all through the editions, especially when he first came out, where you could target every unit and they got hit by lightning on a 6. It's very different these days, and it's very short ranged, I'll admit. It's also, as in keeping with most really good rules, it's only once per battle. Now, we mentioned that his gun is quite close ranged. It's 18 inches. Well, Lord of the Storm is even closer than that, it's 12 inches. So at some point you are going to want to get Imotekh the Stormlord pretty close to your enemy, because this is pretty powerful. Once per battle, at the end of your command phase, this model can use its ability. If it does, roll 1d6 for each enemy unit within 12 inches. On a 2 to 5, that unit takes d3 mortal wounds, and on a 6 it takes d3 plus 3 mortal wounds. Now that is pretty good. It's not just one mortal wound on a 4+. Unless you rolled a 1, you're doing at least d3 mortal wounds on each enemy unit within 12 inches. That is very nice. Now, I admit you do have to get close. You know, we know about the disadvantages of this, but to be able to do more mortal wounds on the table is always good. So this guy leading a unit to around the midfield of the table, potentially hunkering in on a objective in the center of the board, and then when the enemy gets close, popping off the storm. Now, I'm not saying that Imotekh the Stormlord is an auto-include unit, and whilst I have put him in my top 3 units, it's fair to say we probably have a top 20 list of units, because we've got some really good units in this codex, especially in the characters, which is fantastic to see, and we've got some really well pointed characters, and of course characters attached to units gives us some great benefits. I do caution you to be wary of too many characters, because obviously the points do add up with characters. However, I've got my first list coming, and I'm going to have 5 characters in my list, including Imotekh the Stormlord in there. So yeah, it should be fun to play. I think Imotekh will definitely bring a lot to the party, but I would love to know what you think. What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments box below. In the meantime, if you want to see my initial reactions to the Index release, then there's a video for you to check out next, and here's a video that YouTube thinks that you would like to watch.